All right. Happy Monday morning. We made it through another weekend.
We did
Welcome
it.
to Spring Office Hours, episode number 3. My name is Dan Vega. Alongside me is my good friend and colleague, DaShaun. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I had a great weekend. I'm super motivated. I learned a lot, and yeah, I'm looking forward to a really exciting week with everything spring. I think you and I both have kind of been looking out later into the year. We have some cool conferences that are coming up. We got some cool releases that are coming up, and I'm just excited all the way around. I am excited about what's coming. It's a great
I'm
time to be a
also very excited, but I have so much to do. As you said, we have a lot coming up. I know I have like 3 talks in 3 days coming up in like 2 weeks. So I'm trying to get ready for that. But I guess that's part of the gig. So
I think that is, and we have such talented teammates. It's sometimes it can be a little uh, like I don't know what the word is. Like it's motivating. I think that's probably the best word. Motivating.
yep.
We have such amazing teammates.
Yep. Cool. Well, we have a shortened session today so we are I'm on Eastern Standard Time, 10:30 in the morning we started. We're going to stop at 11 today. Usually we go for an hour. Our friend and colleague Whitney is going to be streaming, so we're going to kind of join her channel. She's doing a talk on observability, and so that'll be a really great thing to check out. So we're going to go through this pretty quick, and then we will see. We'll see if we can get a new episode scheduled for maybe this afternoon or tomorrow afternoon. I don't know, depending on what we go through today. We'll get something else out there for this week. So really quick, I want to bring up my screen and talk about what's new. So we always start with the calendar. So calendar.spring.io kind of let you know what's new. Before we get into this week, you can see last week was a whole lot of stuff going on. So for me, two of the big things that caught my attention last week were Spring Boot 2.7 going live and Spring for GraphQL 1.0 going live. So there's some exciting stuff around that. As we look at the blog, there's a couple of posts around that. Alongside 2.7, there was also Spring Boot 3.0 milestone 3. So good to see that moving along. Anything really stick out for you last week?
No, that's it. I have also seen some 2.7 demos out in the wild already, so that's
Nice.
pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Well, I think I'll look at a blog post on that in a second too. But I got a lot of questions last week of, hey, are you going to do a video on what's new in Spring Boot 2.7? And yeah, we'll probably put something together for that. It wasn't as big of a release as 2.6, but there were some cool things in there. And then the questions always come up like, well, how do I find out what's new? We'll look at that. There's usually a blog post. There's usually release notes. There are ways to find out, hey, these are the things that are new features. These are the things that kind of change. So as far as this week, we have Spring Authorization Server 0.3.0. So nice to see that project moving along. I know they just had a release, like a point release, probably a month or two ago. So getting some activity there. That's really cool. If you have not heard of Spring Authorization Server, I will leave some links in the show notes. This is a pretty cool project. Led by the Spring security team, and that's focused on delivering OAuth 2.1 authorization server support to the Spring community. So I know that we had some support in Spring security OAuth before, and this is kind of turned into Spring authorization server. And I'll also leave a link. There's a really good session by both Joe and Steve from Spring One last year on how to just get started with Spring Authorization Server. So, have you done any work with this, DaShaun?
Yes, I have. I've talked about it. I've done a few demos with it. I'm a big fan of it. And last week I was at the Omaha Java user group, and and I heard a rumor that the Spring Authorization Server also works, at least some of the paths work pretty easily with Spring Native. So
nice.
moving for me again, being able to take those deployments, those projects that are using Spring Authorization Server, and compile them with Graal VM and do all of those things makes me pretty excited all the way around. So yeah, I have played with it. I'm a big fan, and my understanding is there's a lot of cool new stuff coming real soon. So yeah, it's a great project. I'm glad to see it back, and I'm glad to see it getting so much attention and adoption.
Cool. So yeah, look for that on Wednesday. We have a Spring Cloud release, 2021.0.3, and then some Spring Vault releases later this week. So a little bit less chaotic this week as it was last week. Excuse me.
Maybe
go ahead.
Maybe we should, on Wednesday, one or both of us, we should have a office hours, and we should just talk about those release and go over the release notes. Nothing else. Just go over the notes and maybe do a quick demo.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll have to dig into that myself. I haven't really had time to go through some of this.
You're busy.
But yeah.
Maybe I'll take a run at this first one and see what it's like.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm happy to join you. I want to learn some of this stuff. So so over on the blog, spring.io/blog, there's a post on what's new in Spring Boot 3.0 milestone 3. So again, if you're keeping up with Spring Boot, we have a new major release every 6 months. 2.7.0 came out last week. So if you start to do some math, you might get to figuring out when this 3.0 is supposed to be out. Again, I don't know if there's a set date for it yet, but you can start to see where that might land. So it's a good time to start getting caught up on what is coming in Spring Boot 3.0, and these milestones are a good chance to do that.
So I think on one of our shows, we kind of scooted ahead and we looked at the calendar and we saw a target release date. And then we had some call for papers that were out towards that date. So I was looking, I was like, oh, this is going to be out. It's not going to be out. It's going to be out. And it's not on the calendar anymore. So I'm just excited.
Yes.
I don't know what that means that it's not on the calendar anymore. I'm just excited all the way around.
Yeah. I mean, if you see the right on, I mean, it should line up that way, but who knows? I know, I don't want to put dates out there that I don't know are for real yet. So we know it's going to be somewhere around there.
In the meantime, I've got experience taking milestone releases. Back in the 1.x line, I was taking milestone releases for different projects early. That practice of taking it early, getting the feedback, I'm pretty sure that's where I got connected to the most people in the Spring community, was taking those early releases and not being afraid to take them into production. When my tests worked, that means that works for me, and I was comfortable going forward. So yeah, as long as you're having good practices, and maybe not everything is ready, but if the 95% that you need is ready and working, I'm having fun with it.
Yeah. So this release includes 74 bug fixes, documentation improvements, and dependency upgrades. Again, you can always check out the release notes to find out what has changed. So that's Spring Boot 3. Again, there's a blog post on Spring Boot 2.7. So again, these are the posts that are really good. It kind of highlights what's new, what's changed. But again, these release notes, for those of you who were asking last week, how do we find out what's new and what's changed? These are great. And they follow the same format kind of every time. And that format is, all right, if I'm upgrading from a previous version of Spring Boot, what do I need to know about it? Are there any things that that I should be looking out for? So it starts with upgrading from a previous version. Then it goes into lots of upgrading. Then it goes into new and noteworthy. So what is new? We talked about Spring for GraphQL. Then it just goes through, anything that is a new feature, and also gets into some of the dependency upgrades. So, if you're using one of these libraries, these dependency upgrades are nice to look at because you get to take advantage of new features. So I know H2 was a big one that moved to 2.1. There are some new features there. Probably things like micrometer. So you just want to pay attention to those, look at those libraries, release notes, and see if there's anything that kind of catches your eye that may make your life as a developer a little bit easier.
So this is probably a good time to remind everybody one of the benefits of using Spring Boot is that when you do that upgrade, when you're using that parent POM, a lot of times for most of those projects, we have this moving this train where it's going to move, and all these releases, you know that they're going to work. So if you're using these projects, make sure you're using that upstream POM or BOM or however you want to use it. And all of those things are part of that release train. We know that this is the compatible versions, and you get it out of the box. So you don't have to do that version bingo where you're switching and changing. Oh, but this one doesn't work with that one. These are all projects that are tested and validated to work together with Spring Boot.
Yep. And there are some miscellaneous things in here. And then finally in the release notes, deprecations from Spring Boot 2.7. So in Spring, I just learned this when I was putting the video back together for what's new in Spring Boot 2.6. So anything that is marked as deprecated, if we say, hey, this is going to be deprecated at some point, 2 major versions later, we will kind of remove those deprecations. So anything that was marked as deprecated in 2.5 has now been removed in 2.7. Anything that was marked as deprecated in 2.6 will be removed in 3.0. So the next 2 major versions away. So we list in here anything that has been removed as, or these are actually deprecations in Spring Boot 2.7. So these will get removed in
3.1.
3.1. Yeah. I think that's right. I'll double check on that though.
Well, yeah, good to know, right? Just because they're deprecated doesn't mean they're gone.
Yep. And then again, so there's a nice, beautiful podcast here with Josh and DevX UK. Spring Boot has a 2.6 minor patch release. And then again, the big thing last week for me, it was obviously Spring for GraphQL. There's a really good blog post on this hey, this is like really the culmination of a lot of work between 2 teams, the Spring team and the GraphQL Java team. So congrats to them for all their hard work. This is really a joy of a project to work with. Like every other Spring project, they kind of take the things that are hard to do, like configuring and wiring up things and making things play nice together. And they just kind of abstract that away and say, here's how you can do something. And, something very simple by adding some annotations in a controller, and you have mapped your controller methods to a schema in GraphQL, and it just makes everything very nice. So thanks for the shout out down here. We've already spotted some wonderful resources in the community. So there's a blog post auspiciously timed by Dan Vega. I did time that on purpose. So thank you for that. And then also it's rumored that Josh is putting together a multi-part Spring Tips video series with Andreas, who is the creator of GraphQL Java, the underpinning library, the thing that makes a lot of this happen. So that'll be cool to see. And Andreas he has a book coming out for GraphQL in Java. So if you want to check that out as well, again, great extensive release notes here and great documentation. So, I think that's all from the blog side.
One more thing. There was a little note there that this week is also Spring I/O in Barcelona.
Oh, yes.
So there's going to be a lot of new cool stuff, a lot of new interesting finds coming out of that conference for sure. I know that there's going to be 1 or 2 announcements made at Spring I/O. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
And looking forward to that too.
Cool. When does that happen? Is that later this week?
26th and 27th.
Cool.
That's this week. May 26th.
No, I was going.
7th,
I was going to attempt to submit some call for papers to that, and then it butted right up against Memorial Day, and I was just like, I'm traveling enough right now. I'm going to spend the weekend with the family.
Great idea.
But I'm excited to hear what comes out of that. And in one of these years, I got to get there. That would be so much fun to be there. So
I'm going to go ahead and put that on my to-do list for 2023.
Yep.
Figure out how to get to Spring IO.
All right. So I think that's all in the news. We have some people here. If you have any questions, please go ahead and throw them out. Like I said, we are going to go ahead and cut this short. So we got about 14 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less, but we will get another one scheduled for this week, this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon. We'll have to look at it, but we'd like to get one in the afternoon. We've been trying to do this. This will give a chance for, all of our left coasters and people in other times to join us live. So hopefully that'll work out. I do want to tease a question I got. So I don't think we're going to have time to go through this right now. So maybe we'll do this in the next episode. But this is just an example of like questions. Like if you got them, send them our way. These are the things that we like to work on. So I won't read this word for word, but this email comes in from Delvin from Indonesia, and he is a subscriber to my newsletter, and he sent me over this email replying to, I was asking, hey, what are the things that you're struggling with? Maybe we can help you answer some of those here on Spring Office Hours. And Delvin is a junior software engineer, and he got my question, what are you struggling to learn with? And he said he's trying to create a project that does a couple things. One, it gets data from a third-party API. So API number one, he wants to take that data, save it into a database. And then the data that's saved in the database, he wants to send to another API. So API number two. So he's tried to find a way on Google how to create a project like this, but couldn't find it. But again, so that flow is third-party API one calls his backend Spring Boot project, saves to a DB. His Spring Boot project sends it off to another API.
Let me get clarification. So I had this thought over the weekend where I was hanging out with my folks, and they like to watch those chefs cooking shows. And one of the shows, all the chefs line up, and they're in a supermarket, and they go and they grab all the ingredients, and they come back and they make a thing either on a $20 budget or a time limit or whatever. And I was watching that show, and I was thinking, man, I would watch that show for projects like this, hey, your Raspberry Pis, in Micro Center, go and grab your parts, put together a thing. But even if it was just MVPs, like these little projects, and I've done something similar to like that with my friend Robert Surchia, where just like, hey, let's just put something together, two different ways. So I won't tell you how I do it. Maybe you do it a different way, but we just come together and we just see, because if we both choose the same pattern, okay, maybe that will give somebody a clue. If we don't, then we get to learn from each other on, hey, here's how I attack it. And we can learn along the way, but also, share it. So that project right there, I want to ask a couple of questions. You said the third party is calling his project?
It doesn't know. So it doesn't need to call his project. You can, this is the way I took it. I was calling the third party this API, pulling those results down, and then saving those into a database.
Okay.
So we'll talk through that. So the way that I originally kind of just constructed it was, okay, this is going to be tough to Google because there's a lot of things going on, right? Mm-hmm. So what you really need to do from a problem solving aspect is, hey, this is the ability to break complex problems down into a series of problems. And that is probably our biggest strength as software developers. This is the skill that we take, because getting requirements and trying to build this huge app, that's never going to work, right? Like we have to attack problems at a time. So there are two problems here. One, call third-party API. Well, there's three. Once we call that third-party API, how do we save those results into a database? So two, and then three, I need a way to trigger this. So I'm going to create an endpoint so that somebody can hit this endpoint that will trigger me to send all the results that I have in a DB over to another service. And this could be any service anywhere. probably just create another. I create another Spring Boot app just to like stand up another app. So yeah, I do have something ready, but we can't.
You got something ready already?
Yeah, I threw it together last night.
All right. Well, I'm going to.
But I haven't told you how I did it. So.
Yeah, don't tell me. I'm going to do the same thing.
All right.
I'm going to take this same project and I'm going to work on this between now and our next show later this afternoon. So I am fingers crossed. You have Delvin's email. Shoot him a message. Hopefully they can join. That would be wonderful. I'm looking forward to this.
I did. I got, I didn't get him a message until this morning, and I'm really bad with time zones. It's probably not even close to our time in Indonesia right now.
I mean, yeah, time zones are hard. Let's see. What time is it in Indonesia?
But yeah, I mean,
9:52 p.m.
Yeah, so he is probably sleeping. Well, I don't know.
Nothing good happens after 8 p.m.
Exactly. So, but I let him know that we would be answering it, and there would be recordings of this. And then, this is really just, I'm not actually going to live code this. I've already prepared something because, again, office hours is more of a demo type thing. Like if we want to live code, we can go into code and actually do this from scratch if we wanted to. And I may even put together like a video on this later on actually building this out instead of just showing it off. So,
well, I'm going to work on this.
Cool.
Now,
it'll be fun.
And our show this afternoon, which still TBD. So stay tuned.
Yep.
And yeah, is there any questions in the audience?
I'll be interested to see how close our projects are. Probably pretty close. There are decisions you make right away. Like I don't want to like lean.
Yeah, don't tell
I'm
me.
just gonna stop talking.
We'll come back.
But we can talk about those things afterwards. So cool.
But just that idea that you kind of got to break it down, right? That this is kind of that practice of this is what we do, and these are the kinds of questions we want to answer, right? We want to be here. I don't want anybody to be spinning their wheels, especially this week. If you're in the audience and you've got something that you're working on this week, let us be the duck. Like just give us a couple of words, like what you're working on, and even just let us hear what you're doing so that maybe we can share it. Like, oh, here's how I would do that. Good luck. But we don't want you to be stuck. That's the main thing. We want to be here to help you. I don't have all the answers. Dan's got way more than I do, but we both have Slack. We have Slack access to the folks that absolutely do have the answers.
For sure.
We just want to help.
Cool. All right. Well, we are up against it anyway. We'll probably give time for Whitney and her guests to get in here and get ready and get rolling.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
So stick around for that.
Yeah. Right here at the top of the hour, Whitney is going to be doing her show. And remind me what it is. I'm going to be watching.
Yeah, that's fine.
But she's got a show coming on. So just stay tuned. We'll have a little gap here. And we will be back this afternoon. Oh, yeah. Observability.
Whitney makes the coolest promos.
Yeah.
What is observability?
Yeah. Jonathan does a great overview. And he kind of, I've listened to him talk a few times. I like his flow, the story that he tells. It really pulls me along. So I've listened to it a few times. And I know that with the way that Whitney delivers and asks questions, I know this is going to be a really good session. So I will be watching that as well.
Cool. Yeah, put it on the background while you start working on this.
Absolutely. That's what I do. That's what I do. I watch more Twitch than I do anything. I watch.
Cool. So pay attention to Twitter and pay attention to Spring Office Hours. We will get another episode up. So like I said, we'll figure out a good time for that. It'll be in the afternoon. So we'll put that together, get that published, and we will see you all later. And
we'll have your questions.
We'll have some demos to show off. And yes, bring some more questions.
Bring your questions.
And we'll see if we can't get them answered. So, all right. Thanks, DaShaun. Again, we'll see you guys all.
See you all soon.
Have a good one.